In the previous episode, we got our feet wet with Composer. But now we feel a little more comfortable with Composer, so we're ready to move on. Let's pull in Laravel. Now, if we go to the installation section in the Laravel documentation, you'll see that we have 3 different ways to download Laravel. One would be to download a special Laravel installer, and this will basically give you a nice command line interface for creating new Laravel projects. Next, we could pull it in through Composer. And then finally, if you want to, you could download Laravel as a zip file and then simply run Composer install within that directory, like we reviewed in the last episode. Now, while you can do that, it's not necessarily anything I would ever do. So instead, we want to use the Laravel installer. Luckily, because we have Composer set up, I can just copy and paste this. And do note that this is Composer Global, so we aren't pulling this in locally. This will instead be available to our entire system. So let's do this. I will paste it in, give that just a second, and there we go. So now I can find it within .composer, and notice I am referencing my home directory here, into the vendor directory, into bin, and here we will find Laravel. So if we run that, there we go. Also notice that we can run this new command to create a new Laravel app. However, it's a little tedious to reference this over and over. So if you try to run Laravel and it doesn't work, you just need to add that full directory to your path. And you could do that by updating a file or something as simple as export path equals, and then I will paste in the path to the bin directory. And that's it. So once you run that, you should now have the Laravel command available to you. And ideally, what you would want to do is instead place that within, for example, your bash profile. You could put it in there, or some people might put it in bash rc, or if you're using Z shell, then you could use something like .zshrc. Any of these files are fine, just open it up and paste in that line. But then once you do that, like I was saying, we can run Laravel and get started. So let's create a new Laravel application, and we will call it My First App. And you'll see that this runs pretty quickly. So if I cd into that folder and list the files, there we go. And even better, we can run this project right now by doing php artisan serve. And now if we go to localhost 8000, there we go. Laravel is now up and running. However, let's take a look at what version of Laravel we are using. So I will hit Ctrl-C to exit out of that. And now I will run php artisan-v. And notice that it actually pulled in 4.2.9. And that's because at the time of this recording, Laravel 5 has not officially been released just yet. However, it's very, very likely that at the point you are working along, Laravel 5 is out, which means you will see some version of 5.0. So if that's the case, then you're free to press stop and move on to the next episode. However, if like me, you see 4.2.9, then we need to manually install this and reference the development branch. So I will cd back to my desktop and simply remove this directory entirely. And now let's start again from scratch. I can run Composer and create a new project, and I will reference Laravel. So remember from the Composer lesson, this is the vendor name and this is the package name. And in this case, those two just happen to be the same. Okay, what's our directory name? My First App. And then finally, I'm going to specify dev develop to pull in that specific branch from GitHub. So let's run it again. And this time it may take a little bit longer, maybe a moment or so. Now here it's asking us if we want to remove the existing Git repo. Yes, we do. And it looks like that installed successfully. So once again, let's go in. But now if I run php artisan v, you can see we're using 5.0. So if we run php artisan serve again, and by the way, if we just run php artisan, it'll spit out a bunch of different commands that you can run. And we will review a bunch of these in this series. But for now, like I was saying, we are interested in this command, php artisan serve. And now, if we switch back to the browser, just like before, we see the You Have Arrived page. However, now, and at least at the time of this recording, we are using the cutting edge of Laravel. So let's dig in further in the next episode.